You ever had someone try to steal something you inherited, like something that's yours, not because you bought it, but because someone you loved gave it to you? Yeah, welcome to my life. 1 year ago, I wasn't planning to spend my weekend arguing with anyone, much less my wife's dead ex-husband's brother, but here we are. Let me back up. My name's Ethan. I'm 38. I've been a forensic accountant for most of my adult life. And let me just say, being good with numbers and patterns has its perks, especially when people lie to your face and leave digital footprints the size of Texas. My wife, Claire, and I have been married for almost 5 years now. She's strong, smart, and the only reason I ever tolerated her ex-brother-in-law, Raymond, that guy, man. Raymond is one of those smooth-talking, hand-on-your-shoulder kind of fake nice people. You know the type, always checking in, always just wondering how y'all are managing, but it's never innocent. Ever. We inherited Claire's dad's horse ranch about a year ago when he passed. Big piece of land down in rural Texas. Lots of history. It wasn't in perfect shape, some fencing needed work. The barn roof leaked, but it was ours. Claire grew up riding those horses. Her dad taught her how to mend fences, how to handle a gun, how to run books. The place was her childhood in a physical form. When her dad passed, he left everything to her. Not Raymond, not any other relative, just Claire. But you know who didn't like that? Raymond. This guy had the nerve to start sniffing around like he was owed something. He kept saying, well, your daddy always said this ranch was for the whole family. And you know I helped him with repairs last winter. Spoiler alert, he didn't. 6 months ago. That's when shit started to get weird. Claire and I would drive out to the ranch on weekends, and things would be off. A gate left open. Tools moved. One time, there was a post-it note on the fridge with a grocery list, not our handwriting. I checked the outdoor cams. Boom! There he was, Raymond, on our property. No heads up, no text, just strolling around like he paid rent. I confronted him once, and he had the audacity to say, I was just making sure the place was secure. Dude, it's a ranch, not Fort Knox. Claire was furious, but I told her to wait. Something felt off. I needed to dig deeper. And that's when I started tracking dates, visits, little changes. Because when people mess with your life, you don't just react, you gather receipts. Last week, Claire and I had just pulled up to the ranch on a Saturday morning, sunny, breezy, perfect weather. I was halfway through my breakfast burrito when she said, Ethan, who the hell is that on the porch? I looked up. There he was, Raymond, wearing jeans that hadn't seen a day's labor in their life, and standing next to some skinny dude with a briefcase and the most confused expression I'd ever seen on a grown man. Claire froze. I stood up and walked out. Morning, Raymond said, like we were old buddies. I didn't respond, just stared. This is Todd, he said, patting the poor guy's back. Our lawyer. Our what? Well, technically, he's here to help with some documents. You know, to get things squared away with the ranch ownership. Claire was still in shock. I couldn't tell if she was going to scream or laugh. Me, I was somewhere between WTF and I dare you to try. We all sat at the kitchen table, Claire glaring. Me sipping my coffee with the energy of a man about to end someone's whole career. Todd, bless his awkward heart, opened a manila folder with shaking hands. This is a transfer of ownership agreement, Raymond said, acting like he was on Shark Tank. You'll both sign, and the ranch stays in the family under my name. Of course. I looked at Claire. Her mouth was open like she'd just watched someone microwave a cat. I turned to Todd. Mind if I take a look? He nodded. Oh, Mandis, the joy I got from reading that garbage. It was riddled with typos, no legal headers. Some paragraphs didn't even make grammatical sense. Honestly, ChatGPT could have written a more convincing scam doc. I almost felt insulted. Todd, I asked casually, you passed the bar in Texas? His ears went pink. Well, I'm in process. Where'd you go to law school? Online. Which one? I turned to Raymond. You brought a guy off Craigslist to steal our ranch. Don't be dramatic, he snapped. Claire exploded. Are you serious right now? You really think this is okay? It's what your dad wanted. No, what he wanted is written in black and white in his will. And then I stood up, pulled out my folder from the backpack I'd left by the door. Todd, I said with a smile, I'm a forensic accountant, with a minor in business law. I know every financial transaction tied to this ranch for the last 15 years. I laid out copies of the will, repair receipts in Claire's name, security cam footage of Raymond trespassing, a list of property tax payments we made. Raymond's face went red. Todd looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. This is harassment, Raymond muttered. No, Raymond, Claire said, voice ice cold. This is reality, and you just embarrassed yourself in front of a fake-ass lawyer who doesn't even know what a deed looks like. This morning, I got an email from the county clerk's office. Raymond had tried to file those fake transfer documents. They flagged it, called me. Now he's under investigation for attempted property fraud. Claire and I, we're fine. Actually, better than fine. The ranch is ours. Legally, emotionally, spiritually. Every inch of that land is covered in her childhood and our future. But the best part, he did it to himself. All I did was wait, watch, and keep the receipts. A couple days after the whole Raymond and Craigslist lawyer episode, things got quiet. Too quiet. Claire and I were decompressing. She was still half in disbelief. We kept replaying that morning like a bad sitcom. Every now and then she'd randomly burst out laughing, like, he really said, it's what your dad would have wanted, like he was Moses reading stone tablets. And I'd just shake my head, like, what kind of unhinged entitlement do you need to fake a legal transfer and think it'll hold up? But of course, the silence didn't last. It never does with people like Raymond. 3 days later, Claire's aunt, Marcia, calls her out of nowhere. They're not super close holiday card level, maybe, but Marcia opens the convo with, I just got off the phone with Raymond. Immediately I knew where this was going. Claire's face hardened. He's saying you two are cutting him out unfairly, that he helped your dad maintain the ranch for years, and now you're just taking it. Claire put her phone on speaker. Aunt Marcia, he's lying. He broke in, forged documents, and tried to trick us into signing over the property. Oh, he didn't mention that part. Yeah. Funny what details people leave out when they're trying to play the victim. Then Claire dropped the bomb. He hired a fake lawyer, a dude who never passed the bar. Silence on the line. Marcia muttered something about being so disappointed in him and hung up soon after, but we knew the phone chain had started. Over the next week, Raymond launched a full-blown guilt campaign. He called up every relative, every neighbor, even Claire's childhood writing coach. He spun this narrative that Claire and I were manipulating the family estate for profit, that she was brainwashed by her new husband, me, and that her dad's wishes were being disrespected. Someone posted a vague Facebook status like, sometimes family forgets where they came from. Blood runs deeper than property lines. Screw that. I wasn't about to let this guy weaponize sentiment while we stayed quiet. But Claire, God bless her, was calm. Let him talk. The more he talks, the more he exposes himself. And she was right, because people started coming to us. Her cousin Meg texted. He called me crying, said y'all evicted him from his childhood home, but I saw the footage. Claire, he's full of shit. Then another cousin sent us a screenshot. Raymond had edited a photo of him and Claire's dad fixing a barn fence. Except that fence hadn't existed for 10 years. The background was completely wrong. He photoshopped the memory. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Then came the real twist. Friday morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But it wasn't spam. It was Lisa, Raymond's new wife. We'd met her twice. Sweet, polite. Always looked a little out of place, like she was trying hard to be invisible around the family drama. She never really talked at dinners, just smiled and nodded a lot. Hi, Ethan. I don't know who else to talk to. I think you should know what Raymond's been doing. Cue my eyebrows shooting off my face. She sounded nervous but determined. I found a folder on his laptop. Notes, scans, emails with someone pretending to be an attorney. Fake contracts. He was planning this way before he ever told anyone. He said your wife didn't deserve the ranch, that if the will wasn't going to include him, he'd make sure it was rewritten one way or another. She sent me everything. Every single file. Scans of handwritten notes with Claire's full name misspelled in all caps. Emails with subject lines like alternative path to transfer title. A document called Contingency Plan B if Ethan pushes back. What the hell? Claire was in tears, but not sad ones. He planned this for months, maybe longer. My dad hadn't even been in the ground a year. We forwarded everything to the lawyer we'd consulted post-inheritance. And that was when things really took off. Yesterday. We got served. Raymond, this lunatic, filed a lawsuit claiming he had a vested interest in the ranch because of historical involvement, implied agreement, and emotional equity. Y'all, emotional equity. I have never laughed so hard reading a legal document. It was like a Reddit post, and a soap opera had a baby and tried to sue someone. He listed off labor he supposedly did, but couldn't back up any of it. Said he'd installed irrigation systems even though we had receipts from a local landscaping company 2 years ago. Claimed he fed horses every weekend. We had vet logs and camera timestamps proving otherwise. And get this, he attached a selfie of himself near the ranch gate as proof of familiarity. I sent everything to our lawyer. He was like, this is a gift. Court date is next month. But I'm already prepared. We've got full inheritance paperwork, surveillance footage, witnesses, contractor records. And Lisa, yes, his own wife willing to testify. Raymond thinks he's going to walk into court and play some homespun, I'm just protecting family land character. Meanwhile, we're bringing a goddamn documentary worth of receipts. And maybe this sounds cold, but I'm ready to bury him legally. Not because I want drama. Not because I need revenge, but because I'm done letting people like Raymond twist truth into weaponry. I'm done with the guilt traps, the family manipulation, the fake nostalgia. You want justice, you bring the truth, and you bury them in it. Last night, Claire and I walked the ranch at sunset. The horses were grazing. Wind was low, sky turning lavender. She looked over and said, "This place feels like it can finally breathe again." And yeah, so can we. The court date was set for Thursday morning, 9:00 a.m. sharp, Travis County Courthouse. I don't know if I've ever felt so weirdly excited and exhausted at the same time. Claire couldn't sleep the night before. I barely did either. She kept asking, what if he pulls something last minute, like fakes more documents or tries to drag it out? I told her the truth. If he does, he's going to dig his own grave deeper. We've got enough evidence to wallpaper the courthouse lobby. We weren't bluffing. I'd spent weeks prepping everything. I had a digital folder called Raymond Circus, and a printed binder version we dubbed the Receipts Bible. Claire added sticky notes in neon colors. It was kind of therapeutic, watching her go full admin mode rage. And it wasn't just about legal prep. It was emotional. Every photo of her dad, every receipt, every voicemail she had saved from the week after the funeral, it all went into the story. Our story. Her truth. Her father's will. The land he left behind. Raymond tried to spin a fantasy. We were showing up with the damn documentary. That morning, we showed up 15 minutes early. Claire wore black slacks, a white blouse, hair tied back. She looked like someone who was done being underestimated. I had on a simple gray suit, no tie, just clean, sharp, focused, and then I saw him. Raymond, standing outside the courthouse like he was auditioning for Better Call Saul. Cheap tan blazer, aviators, trying too hard to look unbothered. And guess who was next to him? Not Todd the fake lawyer, thank God, but an actual attorney this time. Some mid-level guy from a local firm, looked about as thrilled to be there as a guy waiting in line at the DMV, clearly underpaid and over it. Raymond saw us and gave this smug little nod like, "Here we go." Claire didn't even blink inside the courtroom. The judge was a woman in her 60s, sharp, no-nonsense energy, the type who probably made grown men cry in law school. Raymond's lawyer started the circus. "Your Honor, my client, Mr. Raymond Hayes, has reason to believe that the will in question fails to reflect the decedent's true intent, and that substantial undocumented contributions were made by Mr. Hayes to the property's upkeep and function, blah, blah, blah." Claire squeezed my hand. I nodded. Then came the part that pissed me off the most. Us. And due to the emotionally significant role my client played in maintaining the ranch, we argue he holds an implied interest, and request a partial ownership ruling. Implied interest. "What even is that? You gonna cry your way into someone's will?" The judge didn't blink. She turned to us. "Mr. and Mrs. Cole, your response." I stood, walked to the table, pulled out the binder. "Your Honor, with respect, the only thing implied here is that Mr. Hayes thinks emotional manipulation counts as equity." Dead silence. Then I dropped the receipts, literal ones. Vet bills with timestamps during periods Raymond claimed to be feeding the horses, contractor logs signed by me. Tax statements showing only Claire and I paid property expenses, surveillance footage timestamped of him sneaking onto the land without notice. Lisa's signed affidavit, yes. His own wife's statement confirming the plan to fabricate involvement. I even had emails he forgot to scrub, stuff like, "Don't worry, Lisa, once the paperwork goes through, it'll be in my name. She's too soft to fight it." You could hear the air getting sucked out of the room. Claire sat calmly, her fingers laced. Her face was unreadable. But I knew what that silence meant. She was done begging to be believed. Then Raymond took the stand. His lawyer called him up, and man, the performance started. "Your Honor, I loved my brother-in-law like a second father. I visited that ranch every week for years. I fed the horses, fixed the gates, helped install lighting. We were a team. I never asked for anything. Until now. Oscar-worthy, truly." The judge asked, "Do you have receipts for any of these claims, proof of payment, communication records?" Raymond swallowed. "Well, it was informal. Family doesn't keep score." "Oh, yes, they do when you try to sue them," she asked again. "Did the decedent ever write or say, explicitly, that he intended to give you any share of the property? He told me I'd always have a place there. And yet, he left no legal indication of that in his will." "Well, no." Boom! That was it. His whole case evaporated in that one answer. I looked over at his lawyer. Who was doing that slow blink people do when they realize their client just shot himself in both feet? Final statements. The judge asked if either party had anything else to say. Claire stood up. She didn't raise her voice, didn't cry. "Your Honor, my father loved that ranch. He built it from nothing. He left it to me because I was the one who helped him run it. Care for it, understand it. Raymond wasn't there. Not when it stormed. Not when the horses were sick. Not when Dad fell off the tractor and broke his wrist. He's not here for legacy. He's here for leverage." That was the moment I saw the shift. The judge nodded slowly, scribbled a few lines, and then said, "The court finds no legal basis to Mr. Hayes's claim. The will is valid. The property is solely the inheritance of Mrs. Cole. This case is dismissed with prejudice." Raymond's lawyer mumbled something about appeal, but even he didn't sound convinced. Claire, she didn't smile. She just exhaled. Outside the courthouse, we walked to the truck. Raymond followed a few steps behind. Lisa wasn't there. She hadn't come. He tried one last thing. Of course he did. "Claire, come on. You know this ain't over. You think you can just erase me?" She turned. "Finally. No, Raymond, you erased yourself." And then she got in the truck and closed the door. We sat there in silence for a second. Then she pulled out her phone, blocked his number, and tossed it in the center console. Later that night, we were back on the ranch. No calls, no threats, no lawyers, just the sound of crickets and our dog chasing shadows in the barn light. Claire sat on the porch steps, holding her dad's old baseball cap in her lap. I thought it would feel more like winning. I nodded. It's not about winning. It's about being able to live without looking over your shoulder. She leaned on my shoulder and whispered, I hope this place finally feels safe again. And yeah, I think it does. 2 weeks after court, it finally hit us. The quiet wasn't peace. Not yet. It was like the dust after a storm. Everything looked still on the surface, but the damage, it's settling in. The emotional kind, the kind you can't sweep up or patch over with a new coat of paint. Claire wasn't sleeping right. Me neither. It was like every time we pulled into the ranch, we were waiting to find a broken window, a busted lock, some new way Raymond would try to squeeze back into our lives. But nothing happened. No texts, no calls, no anonymous letters. Nothing. And that somehow felt worse. Because if there's one thing we learned about Raymond, it's that silence is just strategy. He doesn't go away. He bides time. Last Sunday, we were at the local farmer's market. Small town vibes, friendly faces, fresh bread, and overpriced tomatoes. Claire was chatting with a neighbor when I noticed someone staring. From 2 stalls down, denim jacket, sunglasses, stiff posture. It was Beverly. Raymond's cousin on his mom's side, also known as the self-appointed family gossip committee, the one who always said, well, I don't like to take sides, but right before taking the wrong side, she walked over. No hi, no smile, just jumped straight into it. I heard what y'all did to Raymond. You know he's staying with his sister, now lost his job, said you ruined him. Claire didn't even flinch. He ruined himself. Still, Beverly pressed, he's family. Claire raised her eyebrows. So you think family means we let him steal from us and lie in court? Beverly did this weird half-shrug like, well, maybe, and I could see Claire's face shift. Not rage, not sadness. Disgust. She grabbed my arm, and we walked away without another word. That night, she was pacing the porch, phone in her hand, flipping it over and over again. I keep thinking about how many people let him get away with this, she muttered. For years, he was always a leech, always manipulative, and nobody said anything. I nodded, because she was right. Raymond didn't become this way overnight. He'd been grooming the narrative for years. The poor Raymond routine, always the victim, always someone else's fault. And now, with no lawsuit left, no property to snatch, he was going full tilt on the reputation campaign. 2 days later, Claire's uncle, her dad's brother, had called. Listen, just letting you know, Raymond's been talking to a reporter. A what? Some local online thing. He's pitching a story about being robbed of his inheritance. Said he's going to expose how the will was manipulated. I swear I almost cracked my molar from grinding my teeth. He was pulling the PR stunt now. Claire was furious and tired. He wants to turn this into a public pity party. Get sympathy clicks. Pretend he's a victim because the court didn't side with his fantasy. Let him, I said. He can cry online. The only thing he's exposing is his own desperation. But she didn't let it go that weekend. Claire posted a thread. Nothing dramatic, no dragging, just truth. Photos of the ranch, her with her dad, the vet bills, the surveillance footage, screenshots of the lawsuit being dismissed. Her closing line. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who respects your boundaries. If someone's only family when they want something, they're not family. They're a threat. It went viral, and not in the 300 likes from locals kind of way. We woke up the next morning to thousands of shares, comments, messages, people telling Claire their stories about greedy uncles, bitter step-siblings, parents who tried to rewrite wills, in-laws who forged signatures, People crying in comments saying, "This hit too close to home." Some even offered legal tips. Others just said, "I see you." It wasn't about likes. It was about validation. She wasn't alone. We weren't. But then came the consequences. Raymond saw it. Of course he did. He didn't comment, but 3 days later, his sister sent Claire a furious voicemail. "How dare you humiliate him like that? He's your family. You've destroyed his life. Do you even care?" Claire didn't reply. We'd reached a new stage, the backlash of holding boundaries. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. When you protect yourself, the people who benefited from your silence start screaming the loudest. But we were done. This morning, Lisa, the now ex-wife of Raymond, sent us a long email. Subject line closure. She left him, moved back in with her parents in San Antonio, said the lawsuit, the lying, the manipulation, it was her wake-up call. She'd been gaslit for years, isolated from friends, made to believe that Claire was the villain and Raymond was just misunderstood. "Watching you both stand up to him showed me I'm not crazy," she wrote, "that it's okay to walk away. That love shouldn't feel like manipulation." Claire cried when she read that. Not out of sadness, but because something finally clicked. Raymond didn't just fail to take the ranch. He failed to control the narrative. And that broke him more than any courtroom loss ever could. Later that night, we sat in lawn chairs out back, the stars just starting to poke through the sky. The horses were calm. The wind smelled like cut hay and cedar. Claire turned to me and said, "It's finally over, isn't it?" And I thought about it. Then I shook my head. "No, but it's quiet, and sometimes that's enough. We didn't win a war, we just stopped playing his game." And that, to me, felt like real peace. A few weeks went by. No news, no drama. Claire started smiling more. She replanted the herb garden by the back porch. I fixed the busted latch on the barn gate we'd been ignoring for months. Life was finally tilting towards something normal. We weren't pretending Raymond didn't exist. But we weren't carrying him in our pockets anymore either. It felt good. Too good. Then came the letter. Not a call, not a text. A physical letter. Typed, no return address, postmarked from Houston. I opened it thinking maybe it was junk mail. It wasn't. It was from Raymond's mother. Claire hadn't spoken to her in over 2 years, ever since she tried to convince Claire not to take sides during the will reading. She hadn't come to court, hadn't called since the lawsuit. She just ghosted. Until now. The letter was full of classic passive-aggressive venom, dressed up like concern. Families fall apart when we stop listening. I don't condone what Raymond did, but surely you can find it in your heart to forgive. Your father would be devastated by all this tension. Claire read it in dead silence, then folded it slowly, walked into the kitchen, and dropped it straight into the trash. Didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Later that night, she finally spoke. "It's like they think forgiveness means forgetting, or pretending nothing happened," I added. She nodded, eyes a little watery but jaw set like stone. "I'm not mad anymore. That's the worst part. I'm just done. Done hoping they'll understand. Done waiting for accountability." And I got it. Because that's the real grief no one talks about, mourning the people who are still alive, still walking around, but refuse to meet you where you are. It's letting go of the version of them that only existed in your hope. The next weekend, Claire got invited to her cousin Tessa's baby shower. We debated skipping it. It was in Austin, and the guest list included a handful of people who had definitely been Team Raymond back when things exploded. But Claire wanted to go. Tessa didn't take sides. She stayed out of it. And I want to be there for her. Just don't leave me alone with the vultures. I agreed. And honestly, I was curious how people would act now that the dust had settled and Raymond had clearly lost. We showed up with a handmade baby quilt Claire had worked on for a month, and a bottle of organic bathwash that smelled like lavender and guilt-free parenting. Everything was chill for about 20 minutes. Then Beverly appeared again. Of course, she cornered Claire near the punch table, holding a paper plate stacked with macarons like she was ready to ambush her with saccharine and moral superiority. I saw your post, Claire. That thread, it really hurt a lot of people. Claire blinked. Hurt who? Bev, the people who enabled a lawsuit against me. You didn't have to air family business like that. It was very public. Good, because the damage was public, and I was done pretending behind closed doors. Beverly gave her a look like she'd just grown horns. You used to be so sweet. Claire smiled, actually smiled. No, I used to be quiet. There's a difference. And she walked away. I nearly slow-clapped. The fallout wasn't over. That night, Claire got a text from her cousin Derek. Just wanted to say, I believed you from the beginning. I was just scared to say it out loud. I should have done better. Small message, but it meant everything. Then another. And another. Turns out, there were more silent supporters than we realized. People who saw Raymond's manipulation and just didn't want to get involved. Too messy, too personal, too real. But now, after Claire told the truth online, in court, at a damn baby shower, people started waking up. And it wasn't about choosing sides. It was about integrity. 3 days later. Lisa reached out again. Said she'd found more documents stashed in a Dropbox folder, old emails, early drafts of the forged title transfer, and one truly wild spreadsheet labeled Equity Distribution Plan. He'd actually made a pie chart, an actual pie chart, of how he planned to split up the ranch once it was his. Claire was 100% excluded. He had a whole list of people he planned to reward for their loyalty. Beverly, Raymond's old buddy from high school who once cleaned a septic tank, and himself, taking the lion's share for operational oversight. It was so ridiculous I didn't know whether to laugh or throw my laptop out the window. Claire just shook her head. He wasn't just trying to take the ranch. He was trying to erase me. And that stung. Because yeah, she was right. This wasn't about property anymore. Or legacy. Or even revenge. It was about control and erasure. And that's what made it so cruel. This morning, we got up early to check on one of the older horses. Sarge, who'd had a leg issue. Vet said he was healing, just needed more rest. Claire stayed in the stall a while after, petting him, humming some song I didn't recognize. When she came out, she looked peaceful, not happy, but grounded. I don't want to fight anymore, she said quietly. Then don't, I replied. She nodded. I just want to build something that can't be taken from me, not because it's locked behind legal paperwork, but because it lives in me. That hit me hard, because that's the real revenge, isn't it? Not dragging someone through the mud, not slamming them in court, but living so free and so rooted that no one can touch what you've rebuilt from ashes.